Keeping up with the news can feel, well, overwhelming, right?
It really can. There's just so much happening.
So we did the legwork. We looked at the headlines from yesterday, Saturday, May 3rd, 2025, to pull out what really matters.
Think of it as connecting the dots.
Exactly. Our goal today is to see how the economy, uh, global trade, and politics are all kind of intertwined in these reports.
It's quite interesting when you lay it all out. You see these seemingly separate events really influencing each other.
Okay, let's dive in. The economy first. April saw 177,000 jobs added, better than expected.
Right, and unemployment held steady at 4.2%. So on paper, the labor market looks pretty resilient.
But, and this is interesting, President Trump also acknowledged a possible recession. He used the term transition period.
A transition period, which does make you ask, if jobs are up, why the talk of a potential downturn? What's driving that concern?
Good question. What does that transition really mean? Okay, let's pivot to trade.
The Liberation Day tariffs.
Yes, they kicked in April 2nd. We're talking a 10% baseline on imports generally.
But significantly higher for some places, China, for instance.
Right, a 54% effective rate on goods from China. That's quite a number.
It's a major increase. Definitely sends a strong signal. But then China has also said, quote, the door is open for trade talks.
So tariffs go way up, but there's an open door. How do you read that?
Well, it could be posturing, a negotiation tactic from both sides maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or perhaps a real sign they want to avoid things escalating further. It's hard to say for sure yet.
Okay, adding another layer. Politics. President Trump announced plans to rename Veterans Day.
To Victory Day for World War I, marking the centennial.
It's a symbolic move, carries a certain weight, politically speaking.
Absolutely. And alongside that, there's the executive order cutting federal funds to PBS and NPR.
Citing alleged bias as the reason.
Yes, so you have these domestic policy shifts happening alongside the economic and trade situation. They don't happen in a vacuum.
We saw reactions to some of this, didn't we? May Day protests on May 1st.
We did. Across the country, really. Los Angeles, Chicago, New York were mentioned.
And the protesters' main concerns seem to be labor rights, immigration policies.
And those federal layoffs that were announced recently, you can see the direct link between policy decisions and public response there.
It's like a real-time feedback loop. So with all this going on, how did the markets react?
Well, global stocks actually surged on Friday.
Really? Why?
The reports suggest it was optimism about those potential U.S.-China trade talks we mentioned.
Ah, so just the idea of talks was enough.
It seems so. Markets often react to potential future events, and any sign of easing trade tensions is usually seen positively.
Interesting. And just as another economic data point, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate.
Sitting at 6.709% in the U.S., another piece of the current financial picture for everyday people.
Okay, so let's recap. We have solid job numbers, but also official talk of a transition period, maybe a recession.
Right. Then escalating tariffs, but also an open door to negotiations with China.
Domestically, symbolic changes like renaming a holiday, plus controversial funding cuts.
Which seems to connect to protests about jobs, immigration, and labor rights.
And through it all, the stock market jumps at the mere possibility of trade tensions easing. It really does all seem connected.
It really does. You see how domestic policy, economic indicators, international relations, and public sentiment are constantly interacting. It's complex.
Definitely. So maybe something for you to think about is this. How does that balance work? You've got decent job numbers domestically, but these big international trade tensions and the president talking about a transition.
How might those things influence each other going forward? What could the longer-term impact of this specific mix of factors be, both here and, globally?
Worth considering.